Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's session of the For Good Cause webinar series. Really appreciate you being here. Today's topic is productive events, optimizing your nonprofit's events to fuel fundraising growths. We have so many clients here at For Good Cause that are doing, you know, multiple events throughout the year, one big annual event. I'm really excited to see what we're going to learn today. I think you guys are going to get a lot out of it. If you can see and hear me, please say hello in the chat. I will do so as well. Uh, Tell us what organization you're from, what town you're from. Just let us get to know you, and feel free to kind of network with anybody else here. Really appreciate you being here. It means a lot that you're taking, part of your day to spend it on learning. So we really appreciate you being here. We will be recording this, so if you have to step away, that's no big deal. I should send out a recording to everyone probably tomorrow by midday, so be on the lookout for that. I'm going to start by introducing myself, and then we will get to our guest expert today, the person that you're really here to hear from. So my name is Ronald Pruitt. I am the president and founder of For Good Cause. I've been helping nonprofits raise money online for almost 25 years now. I'm coming to you from Kennesaw, Georgia. I live here with my wonderful wife, my lovely mother-in-law is across the hall from me. We got a couple of kids, one at college and one in high school. My company, For Good Cause, it's an easy to use and effective online fundraising platform and donor CRM for small to mid-sized nonprofits. If you're struggling with complicated, expensive, just hard to use fundraising software, we're somebody that you might want to talk to. We certainly can help solve that issue for you. You can learn about us at forgoodcause.com. If you're interested in more education, webinars and such, we got a lot of great education there. So please feel free to check that out. Now, let's get to our guest speaker. It's pleasure to have Chad Barger here. He's the president of Productive Fundraising and one of the smartest people that we've come across. Master trainer, sought after, fundraising expert and speaker. So we're really lucky, Chad, to have you here today. We really appreciate you being here. I know that the folks that are on today are going to learn a lot from you. So I'm going to turn this over to you now. Just let me know when you need me to, drop a link to your resource library or fire off questions to you. So Chad, take it away.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Ronald. Appreciate the opportunity. As Ronald said, thanks to all of you for taking some time and for learning and trying to grow and deepen and improve the fundraising at your nonprofit. So I'm going to pop up slides here so we will be good to go. Productive events, optimizing your nonprofit's events to fuel fundraising growth. We're going to dig into all things events today. I have this jam-packed with information. We're going to roll through here in our hour together. Come back. I'll give you links to get to everything, scribble some notes of what you want to do, but there's a ton in here. Don't try to do all of this, but I really want to give you a sense of, how can we make these events more effective and frankly, maybe a little easier because, they can be draining. And I was a frontline fundraiser for 20 years, so I understand. The week after the gala, I spent most of it on the couch. So they're just so draining, but there are some things we can do to have them be more effective. So I want to start with a tale of two very different fundraising events. Here's event number one. Probably looks kind of familiar, right? It's your annual dinner, banquet, award ceremony, something like that. It's in the hotel ballroom. Right, the same hotel ballroom that every other event is in town happens in, serving the same chicken and rice dish that we've all had 10 other times this year, right? We know this standard. Our donors know this event. You know, everybody calls it something different, but it basically kind of looks the same. That's what they're used to. That's what maybe they're a little tired of, perhaps. Let's look at a second event. This event, you don't know where you're going. You buy a ticket, and it's at a mystery location that changes every year. 1 week out from the event, you get a parking location. You still don't really know if that's where it's going to be. There's some mystery, there's some allure. You show up, it's at a warehouse. You're parking at a warehouse, and there is a spotlit door. You walk through the door, you enter the warehouse, and you're walking down a red carpet. And there's a small ensemble playing, and the train of the dress of the harpist is making an entranceway into the event space. You enter, and the warehouse has been transformed for the evening into a gala space. There's chandeliers hanging, there is lights, but there are the rounds, and it is that normal experience, but something completely different. Which one? Which one would you prefer to attend? Right? Do you want to go to the hotel ballroom and eat the chicken and the rice? Or do you want to do something a little different? Which one do you think your donors would rather attend? I can tell you these two events have the exact same price to put together. One requires a little more thinking out of the box, a little more work, but it's not any more cost. It's not cost prohibitive. We just have to be a little more creative. I'm going to use this event as a case study. This is an event I put together and ran for 5 years, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it later. But I want to challenge you to think a little differently with your events. So here's our game plan today. Before we get into how to optimize and maximize these events, I want to back up and kind of just talk about why do we even do events? Because we certainly have other ways to raise money that has a lot higher return on investment, especially when we factor in staff and volunteer time. They take a ton of that, right? So we're going to talk about why events. I want to look at the ideal event revenue model, because I think sometimes we have that a little mixed up. Then really focus on how do I convert event attendees to donors? Because that's something we forget to do, or we think it's going to happen, and it doesn't. So I want to walk through that. So we'll get all of that right. Then we'll talk about, all right, how do we actually create unique events that donors want to attend? I have lots of examples for you. I have tons of resources for you. I can't do events and not at least mention virtual. We're not going to go deep into it, but guess what, friends? They aren't going away. It's another tool in the toolbox. I think how we use them is going to change, but let's figure out how we can use that tool and keep that there. Finally, I'll give you tools to evaluate your event options after I completely overwhelm you with too much information, give you a tool to help you kind of digest and figure out where you want to go with your organization. I have some additional resources for you at the end, and we should have a little bit of time for your questions and comments. And I'll tell you how to get a hold of me after the fact if you want to follow up with your own question that you don't want to put in the chat or anything that way. So that is the game plan. First, who am I? Ronald gave you a little bit of information about me and his kind introduction there. But I'm a fundraiser. That's all I've ever done. Had the honor of serving as a frontline fundraiser for the first 3 organizations you see there on the screen. I am a certified fundraising executive. I'm a master trainer with the Association of Fundraising Professionals, past chapter president. These days, I spend my time primarily serving as a fundraising trainer and coach for small to medium-sized nonprofits through my own firm, Productive Fundraising. And I have the honor of teaching the fundraising courses at both Temple University and Messiah University. At Temple, I teach a 10-week online fundraising certificate program, and I'll give you a little bit more information about that at the end as well. Where am I coming from? I am coming from Hershey, Pennsylvania. So I like to say where they make your chocolate bars. And the question is always, why do they make my chocolate bars in Hershey, Pennsylvania? It's because of the cows, my friends. We have lots of dairy farms. It's Hershey's milk chocolate. So have that fresh milk coming in right in the process all the time. We certainly can't grow cocoa beans here, but we have the cows, we have the milk. Come visit us. We have a great theme park. You can take the factory tour. The cows will sing to you. It's good, wholesome Central Pennsylvania fun. So that's where I'm coming from. Okay. Everything I give you today, including these slides, a recording of a former version of this presentation, lots of templates, samples. They are at productivefundraising.com/resources. So that's really the one note you need to take today. Ronald's going to pop up on the screen, the direct link over to there, both probably now and maybe at the end as well. But yeah, so that will get you over there. So all the resources are in that resource library. And if you just note that /resources, that's going to get you to a page that specifically has everything. You're just going to look for today's date and for a good cause, and everything I mentioned will be right there in order as well. So great. Thank you for doing that. And I think our housekeeping is done. Yep. So let's hop right into it. Why events? Why do we even do events? You know, my question is, should be the primary purpose of a fundraising event? Go ahead and throw it in the chat. What do you think the primary purpose of a fundraising event is? Oh, and I see in the chat, Drake was visiting Hershey. So great to have you up here. So, all right, I'm seeing relationship development, primary purpose of a fundraising event. There might be many purposes. What do you think the primary purpose is? Meg, I do like that relationship development piece. There's Drake, raise funds, donor acquisition. Yeah, okay. So I always get the raise funds. And I agree, an event needs to raise funds. If it doesn't raise funds, it's like a friend raiser or an advocacy event or an open house or something like that. So fundraising events do raise funds. But for me, that isn't the primary purpose. For me, that primary purpose is more in the line of relationship development and donor acquisition. I like that donor acquisition. You know, events are probably the most public thing we do in our community, right? We're trying to spread the word, get publicity, maybe we have media coverage. It's the easiest way for our current supporters to invite somebody else to learn about the cause. Hey, come join me at this event, sit at my table, join my golf foursome, you know, whatever it is. It's the most public thing we have. So for me, I really like to target them for acquisition. A successful fundraising event for me has like 40% people there that are new people. It's the easiest way to get them involved. What kind of people? Well, it's also the easiest way to get individual donors engaged and involved with our cause. And that's where we should be spending the bulk of our time, because that's where the bulk of the support comes from. This is Giving USA data. If you do the math of combining that individual segment and the bequest, you're going to see it's like 77% of all money comes from individuals. And events are probably our best way to reach out to new individual donors. So for me, the primary purpose of a fundraising event should be to find new individual donors. But who typically attends our fundraising events, right? Does it kind of look like the same crew every year? You know, we've been doing this event for 20 years and Joe and Sally have come for the last 18 years, you know. They bring the same 3 couples with them to sit at their table every year. Well, it's great. I love that they support us, but I have a feeling after 18 years, those people would probably support us anyway. So maybe we need to communicate this. Maybe our board, staff, event committee, past attendees need to know that one of our primary goals with this event is to attract new people to learn about the cause. Can you invite a new couple? You know, can you bring 3 new couples and encourage the couples that you had been bringing to buy their own table and bring 3 new people? So really setting as an event goal, making sure there is a fair amount of people there that we don't have a current relationship with. And this is going to start that relationship. This is filling our pipeline. Probably the easiest way to fill a pipeline is to get new people at our events. All right. So that's what I want my goal to be. But I said it does need to raise money. But sometimes I think we go about raising money the hard way. All right. I want to focus on sponsors, not attendees. Focus on sponsors, not attendees. We worry about selling tickets, and selling tickets is hard. Let's do a little math. I always, fundraisers aren't always great at math. We're good at getting money, not necessarily counting it, but I think we can handle this. If I got to sell 200 tickets for $30, That's a lot of work. That's $6,000. Or I could get 20 sponsors at $300. All right, that's maybe like a typical golf tournament whole sponsor kind of level. Doable. All right, so that's $6,000. It's easier to sell 20 than 200. Or I could sell 5 $3,000 sponsorships. It's not a huge sponsorship, but look at that math. All of a sudden, I'm at $15,000, right? I don't care about selling these tickets anymore, all right? I got those dollars. So starting early, and say it again, starting early so that you have the opportunity to build and develop and sell these bigger sponsorship packages is really the key. I say starting early, I like 6 months before an event to be starting to put those feelers out there. A lot of companies, they have these long review processes. We have to submit the thing in their portal. We have a get to know you visit. Then, it goes to their review committee. There's too many proposals at the review committee, so it gets bumped to the next month. This can take 3-4 months to go through. If you start going for sponsorships 2 or 3 months before your event, a lot of times there's not even time to get it through. So starting early, if you have like that presenting sponsorship, you're 10, 15, 20,000, that's like 9 months early. Those really take time. So starting early is the key and focusing on those sponsorships. All right. And Ronald put a link there in the chat on how to sell nonprofit event sponsorships. So some specific advice there, what those conversations look like. But bottom line, I want you to worry less about who is sitting here and more about whose logo is here. And frankly, once you're comfortable selling sponsorships and it's easier, right? It is actually easier, but that shift and the starting early is really our key. Okay, the last thing before we get to designing these events that people actually want to come to is I want to design the experience that these new donors are going to have, these new supporters are going to have with our organization so that they become regular supporters. This is always the goal. Like, we want to do that, but how do we normally do this? Like, they attend the event, we hopefully get their contact information. We're not great at doing that. And then we just throw them on our mailing list, right? So they're going to get our email blast. They're going to get a newsletter. We get our annual report. Then eventually, when we get to our next solicitation window, they're going to get our mid-year or year-end appeal. And it usually doesn't work. It doesn't work because we don't talk about the event anymore. And the event is their connection to us. So we need to frame everything in line with that event. So here it is, my best slide today. This is my event attendee to donor roadmap. All right, this is how we more effectively get some of those first-time event attendees to become actual donors. I'm going to walk you through it, give you a couple examples, but you need to design this custom path for them. In the sales and for-profit world, we would call this a funnel, where we're starting and kind of narrowing that experience. I like this little stroll path a little better. But where's it start? It starts before the event. I want to get them excited to be attending this event. So often you register for an event, you don't hear anything. Maybe you get some logistics a couple days before, but I want to get them excited. Like, I've done things like, sneak peeks of the silent auction, where you're taking a photo and showing like a corner of an object, and they're like guessing what this is. And can infuse our mission and tell the story a little bit, but fun, uplifting. You're going to have a great time. We can't wait to see you. Getting them really pumped to come. What's that look like at your shop? At the event, a positive and unique story-based event experience. There should be no possible way that they attend the event and don't know what they're supporting, what cause, what change they're helping to make in our community through their attendance at the event. But sometimes that happens. And I do kind of pick on golf tournaments a lot because this is where it really happens. I have been in so many charity golf tournaments where I come, show up, play golf, eat the little picnic afterwards. Maybe there's a raffle, but I hear nothing about the mission. I know the organization's name, maybe that they work with kids, and that's about it, right? That's a huge missed opportunity. So throughout the event, we're showcasing the mission, photos, there can be video, but I love to get people up at that podium to share their experience. Having our beneficiaries speak. And I know some of us have sensitive causes and HIPAA and child protection and all kinds of things that way. But anytime we can have the beneficiaries speak, it is so powerful. Don't let them attend an event and not get exposed to the mission, and especially through stories. If the person themselves can't tell the story, we can tell their story of how their life was changed through the support that comes from events like this. Right? Positive and unique story-based experience. Number 3, get them to take a first step at the event. So I don't just want them to do the ticket purchase. I want them to do something while they're there. Right? Something while they're there. A lot of times, especially like corporate tables, there is an expectation that if you are sitting at a corporate table, then your employer says, okay, you're going to do something to support that. This isn't just a free dinner this night. So give them some opportunities. So what might that look like? What can be potential first steps? Usually it's something monetary, but not something big. All right. So something like a fund a cause with a low participation threshold. We're going to talk about fund a causes a little later when I do live auction tips. But this is, at the end of the live auction, just taking donations via paddles, paddle raises. So the $100 level, that can do it. Maybe there's a raffle. With raffles, I love to have like table captains, clipboards at the designated time. I'm going to take 5 raffle tickets. How many do you guys want? They're right there. Filling a spot on a wish board. Here's a wish board, and I have this linked up on the resources page, but a wish board, it's a little hard to see there, but come on in. There we go. It has spots from $1 to $100. You're going to ask them to take a spot or maybe a row on your wish board. You fill a wish board, you raise $5,050, right? That could work. Pledge cards on the table. This is the old Scout breakfast technique. I chaired our local Scout breakfast this year. They still do it this way. Trying to do text to give and other things, but they want the pledge cards. If we are going to do that, we can encourage monthly giving. All of these things, it's not about the money for me. Great if we fill a wish board and raise $5,000, but what I'm really after is their contact information. I'm really after the contact information for the other 3 people in the foursome of golfers that didn't buy it, that maybe I get their names, maybe not. Contact information for the people sitting at the corporate table, the contact information for the 3 couples that came with my board member that bought the table. Right? I'm trying to get, because I can't do any of this other stuff if I don't have their contact information. So I need name, email address, ideally mailing address as well. But the reason for this transaction is simply so I can get their contact information. What can that be? And multiple opportunities. There should be no way somebody comes and they leave and we don't know who they are. Auction pre-registration can work really well for that too. It's a way to speed things up. Okay, so we get them to take that first step. We make them feel appreciated at the event. There is constant thanks. We have board members get up during a break in the dinner and go over to corporate tables and say, folks, pardon my interruption. I'm on the board here. I just wanted to say thank you. We can't do the good work we do in the community without your support. It means a lot. Thank you so much. Simple. Assign them tables, divide them up, send them out. Greeting in the line as people are coming in. At auction checkout, just constant thanks, right? Wow, that organization really appreciated what I did. Number 5, the day after impact email. I can almost hear the groans, right? Like, oh, the day after the event, I don't want to do anything. I'm so exhausted, right? You write this thing ahead of time, right? This is written, it's queued up, ready to go. Maybe we're going to come in and put like a dollar amount or something like that in it, but the next business day after the event, I want this to go out. So usually Saturday night event, Monday morning, first thing, the event recap goes out. It says, thank you so much again for attending the event. With your help, we raised in excess of $35,000 to support the kids in our community. We couldn't do it without you. Thanks so much. Here's a quick video to show you what your dollars are going to do. So again, we're infusing that mission, right? All of this has mission infused. From this point on, I like to go about every 6 weeks, right? So all that other stuff's either at the event or right away. 6 through 10, about every 6 to 8 weeks or so, we're going to do one of these. And these are kind of our standard stewardship donor touch points, but they all reference the event. They all reference that you supported this organization through the event. And that's what we don't do when we throw them on the mailing list. They just get regular stuff from us and they kind of forget that connection, right? So once we have our final results and maybe some photos and some other things, a couple weeks later, we send that email. If we didn't do a video in the day after, maybe we put it in there, that mission in action, 6 to 8 weeks, then maybe a handwritten thank you note. Thank you again for attending the event, right? Another 6 to 8 weeks, invitation to an engagement activity. I want them to come and see the mission. So what does that look like at your shop? And I know not all of us can do this, but I challenge you to come up with something. I really love immersive experiences. If they can somehow experience your mission firsthand. My favorite example of this actually happened with my buddy Rod that I went to college with. Rod is a vice president of sales for a big tech company. He's just south of LA, like Newport Beach area. Rod has boku bucks, but Rod is cheap and not philanthropic, right? I've worked on him for years. Hopefully later in life, realizes he has too much money and will actually do something with it, but cheap, not philanthropic. Good guy, but two flaws there. So Rod gets approached by one of his friends to support a Save the Pelicans fundraiser. So it's like a peer-to-peer fundraiser. He's trying to raise $5,000 to support the Pelicans, something like that. So yeah, I envision it something like this, right? So they're rescuing pelicans, rehabilitating, releasing them back out. We know the deal, all right? So friend solicits Rod. Rod is cheap and not philanthropic, so he, of course, ignores friend. Friend is persistent. Rod eventually throws friend $50 just to shut him up, make him go away, right? Not philanthropic. Rod completely forgets all about it. About 3 months later, he receives an invitation to a donor reception for this organization. He said, "What's this? Pelicans? Oh, that's right, my friend." And he's about to throw it in the trash when he realizes that it is a reception. They're going to have free food. He's cheap. And it's literally right down the street from a next meeting. So he's like, "Oh, I'll just go get free food and then go to my meeting." So, all right. It's on the beach because it's Southern California, So this is not the picture, but this is what I envision a donor reception on the beach looks like. I've never had the honor privilege to be able to do that, but yeah, always humor me. So he says he shows up, he's getting some food, free drink. He's about to leave. And Rod tells me that a Jeep pulls on to the beach, backs up to the ocean. They unload 3 cages. They kind of gather everybody around, say a word or two, not too much. And then they open the cages in unison. And Rod says the 3 pelicans each kind of stepped out, looked around, and then in unison took off out over the ocean, right? They took out off over the ocean. And he said everybody just stood there completely quiet and watched until we really couldn't see them anymore. And he looked around and he said he saw, a couple people beside him were actually like weeping, like there were tears of joy. And then he said he realized he had a tear of joy. Rod, cheap, unphilanthropic Rod, is crying over pelicans. That is the power of an immersive experience, right? He saw it. He experienced it. What did Rod do? After his meeting, Rod went home, went on their website, and signed up to be a $50 per month donor. So they went from a $50 one-time donor that they had no chance of ever renewing to a $50 monthly donor. And if they play their cards right, they cultivate and steward, Rod could add another 0 and could be a $500 per month donor, no problem, right? That's the power of immersive experiences. What would something like that look like at your organization? How can you have them experience it? If you can bring them in for a tour, great. If you can do a behind the scenes tour, I work with a lot of libraries and museums, and for them, people come through all the time, but they never get to go behind that door that says staff only. Even if it's the boiler room, something like that. Libraries, I love book unboxing. The new books come in, they're there. They're the first ones to see them and touch them. They can help label them. They can be the first one to check it out. In museums, we put the white gloves on them, all right? Then they can touch stuff you're normally not allowed to touch. What's that immersive experience look like at your shop? How do you bring them into the mission? In the slides out there, here's a video of one of my former Temple students, Heather Brown, with the Ojai Raptor Center in Ojai, California. She shows this immersive video. She couldn't get people there, but she experienced it through video. And so there's a sample one of those on the resources page for you. All right, we're almost done with our cycle. We invited them to that engagement activity. Number 9, an impact letter. This is usually about 8 weeks before I'm going to solicit them. I send them a letter and says, Dear Jane, it's been 4 months since you so generously supported our cause through the event. It's that key. We need that through the event. We wanted to let you know that in that time, we've been able to 1, 2, 3, 4. List a couple initiatives, a couple things that happen. We couldn't have done it without you. Thanks so much. That's it. No ask. It's an impact letter. Also kind of sometimes known as a priming letter. What happens? People say, oh, wow. They actually told me what they did with my money, and they're not asking for anything. This is a reputable organization. I trust them. Maybe I can trust them with more of my money. Like, these are the priming thoughts that are going on. Then we come to the ask. The ask cannot just be your year-end appeal. It can be almost exactly like your year-end appeal. I actually suggest it being a segment of your year-end appeal, but you're going to segment these people out that attended your event. And you are going to say in the first line, thank you again for attending our event. And then it can be the regular appeal. We wanted to let you know what good work is happening. As we've shared with you, we've done this, this, and this. Your unrestricted contribution would let us do even more. And then it reads just like the year-end appeal. But you have to set it up. You remind them that they first supported you through that event. We're doing that the whole way through the process here. Is the impact letter handwritten, typed, emailed, whatever? It is mailed. I want it actually physically in their hands, so it's not an email. There can be a follow-up email, but it is there. It can be fine typed. I don't think I'd handwrite it. It's going to be a longer appeal piece. But you can do anything you can do to personalize it is even better. So if we can hand address envelopes, there's actually new research that crooked stamps, so you put it on at a little bit of a kilter, gets higher open rates than straight because people think that machines can't put on stamps crookedly and it had to be human. They can put them on crookedly. So, but yeah, anything to personalize, a little note on there, hand signed, all those things are good. So great question, Meg. So that's our process. It's not just throw them on the mailing list and hope. It's a segmented, very specific process that references their event through the support all the time. Those tips on the appeal, we're mentioning that they first supported us during the event, talking about that impact, asking them to consider joining this cause. I love to try to bring them in as monthly donors. That works even better. And anytime we can do a specific amount in an appeal, works pretty well. If it was a gala, $150 a ticket, let's ask them for a $150 unrestricted contribution. That's a good starting point. Very few event attendees will convert to annual donors on their own. They must be stewarded and asked. You have to have a process. Will you convert them all? No. But this process will convert at a much higher rate than simply throwing them on your mailing list. And if we're going to focus on using our events to bring in new donors, let's make sure we have a process in place to take those new donors to be lifelong supporters. All right. So now we can actually design an event because now we're set up the right way. We know that our goal is really to find new people and get new people engaged with us. We know we want to focus more on sponsors and less on attendees, get that revenue model right. And we have this process to bring those people that first interact with us at the event and make them a part of our broader supporter family. So now let's look at characteristics of unique events donors actually want to attend and examples. So I have 6 kind of categories that this falls into. 6 optimized event characteristics. There is no way that you can do all of these in one event. So I'm asking you to pick, 1 or 2 or 3 of these that you can design an event around, or maybe take your current event and transform it a little bit that way. But some of them are like conflict and you just can't do it. So don't try to do all of it, but let's kind of go through these. So first off, unique. Unique. Well, a prime example of a unique event is what you see in the picture there. That is a picture of a color run in action. So color run, this is you sign up for a 5K and you wear a plain white t-shirt and you hurl colored painted chalk dust stuff at other runners, and then at the end your plain white t-shirt is painted and you have a memento, right? They reinvented the 5K. Other than that, it's a straight 5K for a cause or whatever it's for. Unique, non-traditional. Gets people that don't want to run another boring 5K. Right? It's something fun, something I can do with family, something engaging. They just reinvented that model, added a non-traditional and unique component to it. Right? Not the goal. That is not unique. That's not non-traditional, right? That's not what we want to do. Yeah, have you been there, right? Other events we need to attend, like, oh my gosh, another event back in the hotel ballroom, right? Let me walk you through the event I mentioned in the beginning. So this event was called the Red Carpet Soiree. It was an arts gala and showcase experience. So I was managing a United Arts Fund that raised money for about 20 different arts and cultural organizations in our community. So it was a very crowded event space. Lots going on. If we were going to do something, it had to be something different. And all the arts organizations that we supported had their own things. So we put this gala together every year in a different non-traditional space. We'd transform it for the evening. It was a mystery, and we'd have pop-up arts experiences throughout. So like live theater, violinist randomly pops out, ballet dancers come storming in, very just kind of avant-garde, different. Nobody ever knew what we were going to do. This event grew. It had about 200 attendees in year 1. Then it went up to 275, then 350, then 425. Then I capped it because 425 was way too big, and we kept it at 350 for the rest of the run. It was not that situation, right? So some of the things we did. We found our own event space. So this one, it was a building. It was a former insurance building that was about to be imploded. Like it was just kind of old, but at night and with amazing lights, it looked really cool. And we were able to like spray paint on walls and have live art going on because the following week, it all came down, right? That was a unique one. This one, we put up a clear top tent directly below the state capitol building in the middle of February in Pennsylvania. So that was a little different, fun one. This one, this was our airport. This is the Harrisburg International Airport. And 2 hours prior, there were long lines right there to check baggage. Nobody had ever done anything at the airport. Nobody still has done anything after the airport because they realized they didn't like having this happen, and dealing with TSA with this event, even though we were pre-security, was not fun. So I don't recommend it, but it went really well. People said, oh my gosh, you did something at the airport. It's different. It's unique. It's non-traditional. Right? And we spent the same amount of money that we would have spent on chicken and rice dinners and the DJ and everything else. Unique, non-traditional. Simple. I'm going to go completely different. This thing is not simple. This was a huge logistics. I only did one event a year because it required so much. But we can go the opposite way. Simple. Or non-events. Who did a non-event? Anybody do a non-event during peak of COVID quarantine time? It fell over your normal event window. You reached out to donors and past attendees and you said, we can't attend the event, but we still have this need. would you consider donating the cost of your ticket? Anybody do that? Put a yes there if you did something like that or something similar in the chat for me, just so I know you're still awake and still coming along there. But lots of groups did that, and it was very successful. A lot of donors did it. And then what? They raised more money, right? We didn't have any of those expenses for the event, but we still got, all the event ticket revenue, and many sponsors still said, oh yeah, you can just keep the sponsorship money, right? I'm seeing Katie did it. Ronald saying a lot of clients did virtual peer-to-peer fundraisers during COVID. Yeah, very common too. But that non-event, I don't think we can get away with that every year, but maybe every 3 to 5 years we can do a non-event. And especially if we're doing some kind of big organizational shift. So we're launching a new program. We're building a new building. We're moving. We want to focus on the mission rather than put together this event. Would you donate the cost of your ticket? I think it's a tool in the tool belt we can use from time to time. So let's not forget about those non-events. They went over well. But we can also do really simple things. One of my favorite simple things. This works really well, kind of summer holiday weekends. So Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, something like that. Reaching out to donors and saying, hey, we know it's busy, it's summer. We simply want to say thank you. Rather than ask you to attend an event in your busy schedule, we are going to be flipping hot dogs and burgers over the lunch hour on Thursday. Usually works well for the Thursday before the long holiday weekend. Just swing on by in your car. Our CEO will be out there. Love to say hi and take lunches on us. You go out and buy a case of burgers and hot dogs, or you throw your grill or get a small grill for the office. Chef hat for your CEO works really well. And the apron, and they're out there. Even if you just get 20 cars to come through, that's fine. You had that invitation, that engagement, that free, something different. Wow, nobody else has invited me to this. Right? It's simple. And your CEO is going to have more meaningful conversations with the people through their car window as he's handing them a hot dog than he can at your event. Because at the event, there's a million things going on and too many people. These great little one-on-one moments. So something simple like that. It doesn't have to always be the big ticketed things. I work with a fair amount of public school district foundations. And this is something I love for them to do. So this is chalk art. It's actually a guy I went to college with does this. So if any of you want a referral, let me know. I don't have any relationship with him, but he does good work. I'm happy to support him. He does this right for baccalaureate, before high school graduation, right? So every student's going to come. He does these 3D ones, right? Where he's got a point where he tells you to stand and take the photo. And then it's really stretched out when you're looking at it. But the photo, it looks just like this. So you're actually standing on it. Guess what? Every single family is going to stop and put their grad on the hat and take the photo. And who's standing there right beside? Somebody from the foundation simply saying, congratulations. See you at the end. Here's some information on the foundation and everything it has provided for your graduate over their 13 years at the school. Nice and soft. And then there's a pledge card or something in there. It's amazing. They get all kinds of $50 and $100 donors, people that didn't support the foundation the whole way through, but they gave them this photo op. It's a chance to say what we've done for your student, and all of a sudden they're kind of paying it back. Is there something that could work for your organization? Can we piggyback on something else? Do we do a little draw, something like that? I've seen libraries do this with books and things, big giant books that the kids can sit on and stand, but unique, different, and simple. Unique, different, and simple. Next, experiential. Something that matches your mission. Something really tied to mission. Golf tournaments really aren't mission experiential or mission match, unless you are like a youth sports league or something like that. No. So experiential, what's that look like? One of my favorite examples, I was actually doing a presentation for these groups this morning, some of our vision resources and associations for the blind, those type of groups. Many of them will do a dinner in the dark. So it's your traditional gala. but they'll either turn the lights off or give everybody blindfolds for a portion of the meal so they can see what it's like to try to eat when you can't see what you're eating, right? So having that experience. They don't do it the whole time. Usually after like the fifth glass gets knocked on the floor, then they put the lights off. Everybody takes off the blindfolds and say, oh my gosh, that's so challenging. But they experienced it, right? They see why these services are needed that we're working together to fund. There's lots of different ways to do that. You can actually infuse mission right on your ticket order form. So something like this. This is Mentor New York for their event. You can do ticket plus the donation of some kind of service. So we're showing people what we do in the ticket purchase form. Mission is infused right in there. I was talking to Ronald in the beginning. I know you can add donations to your forms in for a good cause. So there's ways to do this with the platform here. But mission infused right in the ticket purchase form. So how do we get that mission into the event so that nobody attends and leaves not knowing what we do, right? Nobody attends not knowing what we do. Next, limited. No monthly events, all right? Be honest. Throw it in the chat. How many major events does your organization conduct per year? These are major events. They're sponsored. You're selling tickets. A lot of work, right? Not like a little donor reception or an open house or something like that. How many? Olivia's got 4. Sandy's got 2. Meg's got 2. Anybody else want to chime in here? Drake's got 2. Steve's got 1. I liken this. I'm seeing fairly low numbers. 1, 1, 1. 1 major, 1 minor. That's a nice mix. Yep, sounds good. Okay, good. I don't have to yell at anybody. I didn't see any double-digit numbers. I don't ever want to see a double-digit number unless you have somebody on staff whose title is events coordinator. And I still think it's probably too many. How many do I like? I like 2. I really like 1, but sometimes we need more opportunities for publicity throughout the year. And I've seen some, a 10 coming in. A lot of times those are, bigger organizations and we need ways to engage. But for those really big events that we're going to ask everybody to come forward with, I like 2. No more than 2. Why? Successful events require 4 months of staff focus. Kind of 3 months ahead of time, 1 month after, right? All that work. You can do some other things, but you're really contained there. They don't just go away. You still have to debrief, send out the follow-up emails, do the receipts, and all the stuff from the event. How does that end up in our office? Like all the stuff is in the development person's office. It was more stuff. Where did it even come from? But always. It just takes like months to find a new home for it all, right? So limited. 1 or 2. Can we work our way towards that? Can we combine some things? I'll give some tools to help with that. Next, profit maximized. There are multiple streams of income at that event. I'm not sure I'm going to have the time to go through all of these, but they are here for your reference. But let's look at some ways we can profit maximize. One of my favorite profit maximized events in my community is put on by our Salvation Army and the women's leadership group of it. They wanted thinking about doing a fashion show. There's all kinds of fashion shows. It's like, I don't really care about the fashion, but we all like shoes. So they do this shoe strut. It's basically a shoe fashion show. The business leaders are the models. They have this giant silent auction with like 300 pairs of shoes. There's all kinds of ways to give. There's a text to give. There's a raffle. Like you cannot leave this thing without having multiple ways. So tons of options. Really fun event. I always love this event. They did it as a Friday luncheon. So busy moms didn't have to give up a weekend. And I loved it because I was usually one of 3 guys that attended out of 600 people, and I stuck out like a sore thumb and I actually had people coming to talk to me rather than the opposite. Our silent auctions tend to be a big headache for folks. This is my way to get what you want for your auction, but not have to do it all yourself. So the key here is you put together a wish list of themed auction basket ideas. I don't want your leftover gifts that you don't want donated, and then I have to figure out how to put them all together. No, here's a wish list of our themed auction items. Every board member, every committee member is going to partner on one. You can either give us the money, you can buy it, we'll wrap it, but giving these options really helps to make a board powered and silent, easier silent auction. And then what I do want left over, and not everybody can do this, state regulations are different, but all the stuff like dinner party you hosted and somebody brought wine, but you don't like that kind of wine and it's just been sitting around, give me that bottle. And we're going to take like 20, 30 of these and create this basket of cheer or something. That is a great auction item as well. Your live auction, let's maximize that. We want to curate exclusive experiences. Those are the best live auction items, something I can't buy on my own. I credit my auctioneer friend Tim Keller for these 2 tips. He ran the auction at my event for those 5 years. He would always start by selling something of no value. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here this evening not to get deals, not to shop, but to support this important cause. With that in mind, I'm going to start the auction with something not in your catalog this evening. I'm going to start by auctioning this can of Pamplemousse Grapefruit LaCroix. Who will give me $500 for the LaCroix? And off it goes. So I have seen him sell a glass of water for $500, a blank artist palette for $2,300. Like, it just kind of keeps going. Always great to have a board member that's going to make that first bid and get it going. Because at first people think it's a joke, and then bidding actually happens, and they say, oh, well, I'm going to support this cause, and they bid too. At the end, we do the same thing. I mentioned the fund a cause earlier with that low threshold, so going down to that 100 level. It's just starting. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand we had 12 auction items tonight. There are 250 of you here. Not everybody could win something, but I want to give you a chance to support the cause. So by raising your paddle, you can make a donation. Who will give a donation of $5,000? And you have a board member that's going to make their annual contribution at the event by raising their paddle right then. It's like, oh my gosh, somebody did it. And then, I like to call it sometimes peer pressure for good, and we get down there and everybody at my table has done it. So at the $100 level, I'm going to do it. Final tip here is at that lower level, take a couple bids and then announce there is a prize for the last $100 donation. And my favorite prize was always those large format bottles of wine. They have really fun names like Nebuchadnezzar and all kinds of things. So, but those work really well. Give it to your CEO, your board chair, and as somebody makes a donation, they start walking to them, and then somebody else says, oh, and they come back over here. It's a lot of fun. It's really good energy for your event, especially because sometimes the end of the auctions, they just been going for a while. So great ways to maximize that live auction. Do a wish board. Great way. Get some additional revenue at the event. At a golf tournament, I like warring beverage carts. So get 2 volunteers or 2 staff members. They're competing to see who can raise the most money in tips. I credit Sandy Box at Central Pennsylvania College for this. She raises like $1,600 additional in tips from these people competing and adds a fun element to the event. Like, they're doing zany stuff to get tips, and it's a lot of fun. So take advantage of it. Last one, third party. Let somebody else do it. Especially the event that you inherited that you don't want, that say, if somebody says, oh, we've always done it, we have to do it. Well, let's find a group, a Lions Club, a Rotary, somebody else can do this for us. We just show up, shake hands, collect the money. Right? Doesn't that sound a lot better? Yeah. The thing here is there's some risk. Like, I've had somebody take my logo into purple, and that was against brand standards, and had a communications person all in a tizzy over it. So a third-party events policy is really great, just so they know what they can do. But you don't want to say, you need to sign my third-party events policy before you can do the event. So I like to say, I have this toolkit for you. It's got our logos, it's got some stories, it's got photos, it's got some guidelines. It's just in this, so they get everything. Third-party events toolkit to help those folks. I mentioned virtual events. I don't think they're permanently going away. I've had multiple clients be approached by donors who said, I see you're doing your in-person gala this year. I really liked it when we did that at-home wine tasting. Can we just do that again? I'll pay you the same amount as the gala, like the $500 per couple, no problem. So they saw it, some liked it. They don't want to put the tuxer gown on. They don't want to give up the Saturday night. So they have a component. I'm not going to go through all of this, but virtual events were successful. And more importantly to me, they finally fixed the accessibility issue. Everybody could be there. So why are we going to throw them out? Maybe incorporating it. That wine tasting at home, there was something to that that folks liked. These are my tips for a virtual event. I always think, it's a 30-minute produced TV show, not just setting up a camera in the back of the room. And for that reason, I really don't like hybrid events. I like a virtual event and an in-person event. Hybrids are really hard to do. You basically have to be doing 2 events at once with 2 event producers, monitoring what that experience is for the people joining their way. It's very easy for one group to get the short end and feel left out. Okay, I've thrown a ton of information at you. We're coming to the close of our hour here. I want to give you a tool to help you kind of figure out what we want to do. So how do you evaluate all these event options? This is a great tool put out by my friends Alice Ferris and Jim Anderson with Goalbusters Consulting out of Flagstaff. This is an evaluation sheet for new fundraising ideas. I actually like it for all fundraising ideas. So I'm going to have you put your events on here, put what you're currently doing. If you've got some ideas, something you saw today you might want to try, put it on here. That event suggestion that your board member keeps saying year in and year out that probably won't work, will take way too much time, put that on here. And we're just going to score everything in these 5 categories. So potential revenue, how much can we make? Effort, how hard is it? Likely success, can we pull this off? And the last 2 I love. Uniqueness, is this unique or does everybody else do it? A golf tournament's a 1. The event in the hotel ballroom is a 1 or a 2, right? And mission match. Does it make sense for us to do this? Is there some way our mission is infused into this so people get it and see and have an opportunity to experience what we do? So you put them on there, you score them, and then you kind of have a sense of, that virtual 5K we did, and I see Jessica did 10 virtual walks since COVID. So those kind of work really well. They score pretty high on many of these things. The non-event too, right? The golf tournament, not so much. So, score it and see. The people that are resistant, when you have something that's scoring a 30 and their thing is scoring a 15, it makes it a little more real. Meg is asking, is there value to doing the same thing every year? Tradition, or is it better to mix it up? I kind of like doing the same type of event each year. Just because people get used to it. We're going to keep stating that we want them to bring new people to it, but there needs to be a new element each year. Otherwise, like an event's stale after 3 or 4 years. So something new, some kind of new element, something fun that gets infused into it. So I'm going to say don't waste this golden opportunity. Everything's been in flux. We're kind of coming out of that and getting back to what the new normal-ish thing is going to be. So take advantage of the opportunity. Your events have been in flux too. Make that a good thing. Make it, we didn't do that event. I don't think we need to do that event. It's too much work. We're just not going to do it, right? We can still have those conversations, but I think your window is closing for that. I'm going to wrap up with some additional fundraising resources. Olivia is asking, how do you grow sold out events besides increasing prices? Sponsor side and more at event revenue opportunities, wish boards, text to give, keep adding additional elements, but increase the sponsor prices and do more of them is easiest way for something to grow. Because that event, it was always selling out for me. So we just kept increasing the sponsors. It got to the point where that event was filled by about 80% corporate sponsors because they just wanted to be there. It was something different and their people liked it. It was a rare event where they actually didn't have to beg people to attend and fill the corporate table. They were kind of fighting over the tickets. That is our goal. Okay, my additional resources for events. My favorite book. If you have a live auction or something and you want to spice it up, this book by the late, great Kathy Kingston, How to Transform Special Event Fundraising with Strategic Benefit Auctions. She goes over all of those little games you can play. It's the best place I've seen where they all come together. But all the little heads and tails, all the little games at auctions to just make it more fun and not this boring half-hour thing I have to sit through. My favorite auction expert is Sherry Truler with Red Apple Auctions. And Sherry publishes every year a benefit auction item guide. So what she's a benefit auctioneer. She does 80 auctions a year. So she publishes what she has seen sold best in the recent times. So that's always a great resource. I do a free monthly webinar. So my next one will be on November 30th at 1 Eastern. And we're going to tackle fundraising planning. So fundraising planning pitfalls and pointers. Just, what are some things you can do? And I include a very simplified fundraising planning process for small shops in this. And I have templates of a couple different plans. So if fundraising planning is a challenge or you want to just kind of refine or simplify your process, I encourage you to join me November 30th at 1 Eastern. The sign up for that is on the resources page, productivefundraising.com/resources. If you want to follow up with me, easiest probably is social media. I go by Fundraiser Chad on pretty much every channel. I'm not on TikTok. I don't know what I'm supposed to do on there, but everywhere else, just type in Fundraiser Chad in the search box. You'll find me. My company, again, is Productive Fundraising. We do board and staff fundraising training, both in person and virtual, coaching for fundraisers and nonprofit executive directors. And a new line for us in the last year or two here is we're doing a ton of onboarding coaching. It's really hard to find qualified fundraisers. So especially small nonprofits are hiring for people that are really relationship developers that have a passion for the cause. And then we're partnering with them for 6 to 9 months to teach them fundraising. As I mentioned, I do teach at both Temple and Messiah. And at Temple, I teach a 10-week online fundraising certificate program, which goes through the whole area of fundraising and really kind of digs deep. Great overview of the field. And our next cohort of that starts in January. And I think signups will probably open in another week or so. So again, everything's linked up on the resources page, including my all access pass, which gives you all of my webinar recordings and tons of stuff. So that's all there for you to check out. Encourage you to pop over there, grab whatever free resources, templates, samples you want, and we'll go from there. So with that, I'll open up the floor. I think I've been taking most of the questions as we came along, but if I missed anything, feel free to let me know, Ronald, or feel free to retype it, folks. And but we have a minute or two here.
Yeah, Chad, this is absolutely fabulous. I learned a lot myself. This is fantastic. I think there was a question from Meg earlier in the chat. So when you're talking about your roadmap, following up, is there a difference in what you communicate to someone who's that person that's been to that event for 10 years versus the person that's new?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really targeting that roadmap as a new person. I think if you are going to try to convert your 10, 15-year event attendee to a donor, I don't think it needs to be as complicated. They're familiar with the mission, things. It's just kind of got to give them a why. Why should I give you a check versus attending this? And I actually think sometimes it's easier to convert them to be a monthly donor that way, because our why with monthly donor is really sustainability. And sustainability is really resonating these years because, what happens, I'm not even going to say it, but another thing happens like what just happened. The only groups that weren't panicking for me during quarantine time in my client base were ones that had over 50% of their donors giving monthly. They were perfectly fine, right? So that might be an easy case of, hey, become a monthly donor. Here's why it's important, because we can't do this event in those situations.
Sure. Just a quick question from me. You talked a lot about how that revenue, you want to maximize sponsorships. Have you seen with your clients that you maximize those sponsorships and they're no longer selling tickets? The event becomes free and maybe you're getting donation asks that while people are there. Have you seen that you can get to that level with your sponsorships?
You can. I have seen that a little bit. Like we're worried about filling the seats, but I can fill seats. I mean, you got, it's all sold out with sponsor tickets. They don't fill all their seats. You're going to have 50 empty seats. I know 50 people that would like to come to the event for free. We have volunteers. What a great engagement way to invite them. Hey, come to the event as our guest, as a way of saying thank you for all your service. We can fill seats. So yeah, we'll just work on that sponsor side.
Sure. I think Olivia's asking a little follow-up here. How do we, besides increasing pricing or getting more out of those sponsorships, how are we growing those events? Perhaps bigger asks,
Yeah, I mean, definitely pricing up, more sponsor options. I've seen groups add not making it a series, but some events before and after the event. So maybe there's like a preview reception or like a post follow-up, something that is tied to the event, maybe the program piece. Maybe it's a like fireside chat with the speaker that was there that they can actually have a chance to interact with them. So they're tied together, but they're kind of like a la carte add-on things. So, the event itself might be tapped out, but we can add on additional components.
Sure. Jessica's asking about Zoom burnout. They're doing a lot of virtual walks and virtual trainings, and are they getting burnt out on Zoom for the opening ceremony and the event itself?
Yeah, I've heard about it all over the place. I think everybody's different here. Just how much do you have to do it? I'm seeing both in-person and virtual attendance. Everything's down a little bit right now. Events that normally get 300 people are getting like 225. My personal webinar, like in the peak of COVID, I was getting 350, 400 people a month. Now I'm getting about 225. So it's just kind of where it is, but both tools are there. And I think we're just going to be this mix of back and forth, and people are going to change their desire, what they want to do all the time. Unfortunately means we probably have to offer both options a lot of times. So, but yeah, like even with coaching clients, it was like at first everybody wanted to go to Zoom because, we could, and this new technology. Then 4 months later, I had about half of my clients asked to switch back to just a phone call because they were so sick and tired of being on Zoom all the time. Now about half of those people are back to Zoom because they just like that, and like we can do screen share and those kind of things. So it's changing constantly. I don't have a clear answer other than be prepared for both.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing our clientele, during COVID, they slipped in a new virtual fundraiser, but now they're wanting to go back in person. They're wanting to go back to those traditional events, but they might slip in one online event, during that off-peak
like
time.
Like
so, yeah.
2 in person and 1 virtual, like maybe during snowy season or something when it's hard to gather or, something. But yeah, it's a tool that we shouldn't forget about.
Absolutely. Just to wrap things up, Chad, really appreciate you being here and sharing your expertise. I appreciate the audience being here. I certainly recommend everybody to go to Chad's resources. I'm going to share that one more time here. If you didn't get a chance to click on that and go get all the great stuff that Chad has to offer. If anybody's watching this later on demand, this is my contact information here that you see on screen. If there's anything you missed, any questions you have about either this webinar or For Good Cause, feel free to reach out to me. I will be sending out the replay probably around midday tomorrow, so be on the lookout for an email from me for that. Once I close this webinar and end the session, you will be redirected to a survey. Please let us know what you thought about the webinar today. I'll pass that along to Chad, and we really appreciate your feedback on anything that we're doing here at For Good Cause. If there's other things that you want to see in our webinar series, please let us know. Chad, thank you again. Thanks to everybody for being here, and thanks for what you're doing in your community, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.